those are John Barrowman. Joe McKelvey. Oh.
We had an absolute shit day, Denise, to be honest with you.
Why?
Well, we had nothing going on. You are literally the pinnacle of our day.
And he's not lying.
So tired.
You're having a very serious conversation now. You're very upset now, Denise. Look at that.
Just this way, wait.
Cheers.
I define a paparazzi more a photojournalist providing the celebrities with the exposure to sustain their careers rather than stalkers like some other people would. Come and go as they please. Like anyone with a camera can really be a paparazzi. Anyone can make £1 million of a picture depending if they get it. So there's more three types of paparazzi. You get the absolute that will stop at nothing and just push any fans out of the way to get the pictures.
We need some space. We'd like to get Kerry turning it out, so we can have some space. It's not Jedward, yeah?
Alright,
I'm telling you. I'm telling you off. I'm just telling you.
Fans with cameras as well, who are there not really for the love of the money, but for the love of celebrity. Then you get more the just photographers who are more photojournalists that couldn't quite make it as that. Because like I've always been a fan with a camera more than press. I'd say when I first started, a lot of the press were, I think they felt I was a joke because I didn't even know how to use a camera. But within a few weeks, I'd made more money than they had that month in a day, because quite honestly, they're too lazy to go out and make their own research. And then the more exclusives I got, the more they saw this as actually becoming my career rather than just a kid with a hobby. A lot of it depends on who the star is, what they're doing, and how intrusive there is. Not many magazines want to buy pictures these days of, say, people out shopping. They kind of want to see more into the lives, like love lives, drama, scandals, things like that. I've hid in bushes quite a lot to get photos, most noticeably outside the ITV studios, filming the Coronation Street cast. I was stood on a wall, hidden in a tree, photographing, I think Devi's called, smoke a cigarette outside his car. The pictures didn't sell, and I fell out the tree.
What's up, guys? Jedward on your video camera. What's going on? You guys are awesome.
So like with Jedward, really, although they are quite famous, their pictures don't necessarily sell, which is why a lot of the press will choose to just make fun of them after getting a couple of shots. But the twins have actually managed to sustain their career through their careful photo opportunities, which they know how to control. In London, pretty much everywhere is a hotspot, but I'd say from my own experience, it's more like Radio 1, the Mayfair, the Dorchester, the ITV studios and the Soho Hotel. I'd say one of the benefits really of being press was all the free concert tickets and event passes you'd get really. Whereas my friends are paying like hundreds of pounds to go to festivals, I'd get a VIP pass last minute and I'd get to camp in better places than them. I'd get to meet the stars as well and I'd get to make money out of the trip. When I first got into the industry, I phoned a couple of agencies in London. No one really wanted to take me on because I was 16 and I didn't know how to work a camera and had no experience. But then I phoned one agency back up and told them I had an exclusive set of pictures of Paris Hilton, and within like 5 minutes they'd agreed to take me on, and then the next day the pictures were all over the British press, and within a week they'd gone worldwide. A lot of the time the celebrities themselves won't call up the agencies, but they'll get their PR and agents to phone us up directly to tell us where they were. I remember a few years ago when Cheryl Cole first started filming for X Factor and Dannii Minogue wasn't really in the limelight, so her people actually told me directly where she was in the shop, and I went down and photographed her, and she walked out the shop 3 times to make sure she looked good in the pictures and checked before she went off. I say the celebrities react to us is quite mixed. A lot of them understand that we help them keep their careers really, and like without us they wouldn't have a career. And then you get the other half who they'll use you on the way up to build the profile, but once they reach a certain level, they'll just hate you and do everything they can to get away from you. When we submit our pictures, it's not really up to us like what the story that gets run is. Like a lot of the time I've submitted pictures where it's simply just been someone out shopping, then I've seen it in a magazine the next week and it's kind of got some kind of love story or any old rubbish the agency have made up to try sell it really. I don't think people's opinions on paparazzi is a fair one at all since the Princess Diana really. Like once I was on holiday and a woman asked me what I did and I told her I was a paparazzi, and within a minute she'd called me a murderer. She felt the press killed her, and although I told her I was 6 years old when Diana actually died, she still actually felt I was somehow responsible behind this with everyone else. Like, whereas everyone else my age was either working in Asda or at college, I was out there photographing some of the world's biggest stars, and they were reading my pictures every day in the newspaper without realising. It was only after a while people started to tell me the downside to this and how immoral they think it is. Wayne Rooney's always been quite horrible as well. On some occasions he's spat at me, he's chased me while I've been on my own. Like, I was 17 on my own and it was like midnight, and him and 4 friends chased me through town, so that was quite scary.
Kerry can tell me Kerry can do that.
Kerry was actually always a funny one for me. When I was photographing her when I was working in the industry, it was like the height of her cocaine sniffing addiction and her meltdown, so I always thought she was a bit of a skank, and a lot of the time she'd go out of her way to ignore us, so we would shout skank at her. But ever since then, and she's changed managements to Can Associates, I've actually started to see a warmer side of her through the telly, and I actually think she's quite a nice lady. I think back when I was photographing, I would have gone to any extremes to get the picture. I remember the first time I seen Paris Hilton, and although I got the exclusive of her walking into a 2-star B&B, I didn't really know where to stop because this was one of my first paps, if you could say. So I actually followed her inside, and I stood outside a hotel room for half an hour with my ear on the door listening to what her and her boyfriend was doing. So actually sometimes I did feel quite guilty about what I was doing. Like, at first I didn't really see anything wrong with it because I was just taking pictures that people wanted, but after a while I started to see that this wasn't right. We was actually intruding into people's lives, and when I started to relate this to, say, my own family and feel how my mother would feel if people was doing this to her, then I started to realise it was quite wrong what I was doing. For me personally, I stopped because I kind of started to see what the industry had done to me. As I started it at such an early age, like, I got into it for a love of celebrity rather than the money it could make me, but the more I spent in it, the more I kind of started to isolate myself from friends and family and everything else normal 16-year-olds were doing. And then the big picture really that made me see what I'd become was in the middle of Jade Goody's battle against terminal cancer. After spotting her children and her ex-boyfriend in Manchester, I didn't just photograph them on the streets, I was sneaking into hotels and photographing them crying through windows, and at one point I actually hoped that Jade would die so my pictures would make more money at the time, which is quite terrible thinking back, but back then I felt there was nothing wrong with this. It was only upon reflecting back that I realised I didn't like what it made me become. Although I actually gave up photographing the stars, I actually continued stalking them after that because as I'd spent the past few years of my life doing that every day, that's kind of all I knew. Each time I'd go out and meet someone famous, I'd start blogging about it. And then after a couple of years, I actually had a couple of thousand people following my blog and constantly just reading what I'm up to and expressing interest in my life, which was quite weird in one sense. But to kind of profit from this somehow, I kind of wrote a book about my experiences in the industry, which has just come out now. I think the rise of the paparazzi comes because nobody really wants to open up a newspaper and see children dying in war or pictures as newsworthy as that, which is why the paparazzi over the last 50 years has triumphed above photojournalism, which was already established, because people would much rather see Britney out shopping than kids dying, and until this changes I don't think the paparazzi are going anywhere.